Hello there. I'm Edward Morrison, and I'm going to tell you something that happened to me recently. I overheard my children planning to trick me into a nursing home, but that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was when I saw my wife humiliating our housekeeper just because she was black. That's when I decided to teach them a lesson they'll never forget. But before I start, tell me, what state are you watching from? I'm really curious to know where my story is reaching. Please write it in the comments. Look, I'm 75 years old. My whole life I worked like an animal to give my family the best. I started selling hot dogs on the street when I was 15 years old. My dad had died and my mum was sick. I was the oldest of 5 kids. I remember getting up at 4 in the morning to prepare the hot dogs. My hands would burn from the steam, but I didn't care. I had to feed my family. I sold door to door, at offices, at construction sites. Every dollar I made was sacred. By 18, I had a food cart. By 25, my first small restaurant. By 30, I had 3 businesses, and that's how I kept growing. Dollar by dollar, sweat by sweat, until I built an empire. I have 3 children, Robert, 45 years old, Carmen, 42, and Michael, 38. And my wife Helen, who I've been married to for 50 years, or was married to, you'll see why I say was. I made Robert vice president of the company when he turned 30. I thought he was going to follow in my footsteps, that he was going to take care of what cost me so much to build. Carmen married a politician. She was always the most ambitious, and Michael, my baby, was supposedly handling our international investments. Everything I have, I got with these wrinkled hands: a 5,000 square foot house in Beverly Hills, 5 luxury cars, money in banks across the US and overseas. But nothing prepared me for what I was about to discover. It was a Tuesday in October. I had gone to the doctor because my knees had been hurting a lot lately, but they cancelled my appointment at the last minute. I got home around 3 p.m. and heard voices in the main living room. At first I didn't pay attention. I thought it was Helen with her country club friends, but when I was going upstairs, I heard my name. I stopped. Dad can't handle his affairs anymore, Robert was saying. My oldest son, the one I trusted most. Dr. Martinez says he's starting with senile dementia. It's just a matter of time before it gets worse. Senile dementia. I was perfectly fine. I remembered everything, ran my businesses better than ever. What was he talking about? I got closer to the door and kept listening. But do you think he'll agree to go to the nursing home? Asked Carmen. My only daughter, the little girl I used to carry in my arms when she was a baby. He doesn't have a choice. Michael answered with a coldness that chilled my blood. I already talked to Dr. Martinez. He's going to sign the mental incapacity papers. Mom has the power of attorney from last year. Power of attorney. When had I signed that? Then I remembered. Helen had told me they were medical insurance papers. I trusted her and signed without reading carefully. Perfect, said Helen. My Helen, the woman I married when we were both 25. I was getting tired of taking care of him. At Golden Years Manor, he'll be well cared for, and we can finally live peacefully in this house. Tell me, how would you have felt hearing your own children talk about you like that? It was like they were burying me alive. And what do we do with all the staff? Asked Carmen. We fire them all, Robert answered, starting with that insolent black woman. I never liked her. They were referring to Maria, a 50-year-old woman who had been working in my house for 20 years, who had taken care of my children when they were small, who worked Sundays without complaining when we had guests, who had never missed a single day in 2 decades. Maria is a single mother. She has 2 children, Diana, 22, who was studying to be a nurse but had to drop out for lack of money, and Carlos, 18, who works construction to help his mom. Anyway, Helen continued, that woman is getting too old, and lately she's getting too uppity. The other day she even talked back when I told her to clean the bathrooms better. That's what happens when you give these people confidence. They take advantage, Carmen added with a disgust that made me nauseous. At that moment I heard footsteps in the hallway. It was Maria heading to the living room with a tray of tea and cookies. As always, impeccable in her uniform, with that respectful smile she had for the whole family. Good afternoon, she said, entering. I brought the tea you requested, and I prepared some snacks in case you were hungry. Who asked for snacks? Helen yelled at her like a wild animal. Can't you just do exactly what you're told? I saw how Maria startled. After 20 years, she wasn't used to being yelled at like that. I'm sorry, Mrs. Helen, she murmured with a trembling voice. I thought maybe... That's the problem, Carmen interrupted with a cruelty that broke my heart. You people always think, why don't you just obey, and that's it. It's the only thing you know how to do well. Tell me in the comments, is it right to treat someone like that who has served you faithfully for 20 years, just because of the color of their skin? Maria, Helen continued with that venomous voice she used when she wanted to hurt, I think it's time we talk about your future here. When Edward is no longer in this house, we're going to need less staff, and frankly, you're getting too old for this job. Maybe you should look for something more appropriate for someone of your condition. My condition, ma'am? Maria asked with a broken voice. Robert laughed, a cruel, merciless laugh that made me ashamed to be his father. Oh, Maria, don't play dumb. We all know your people have other types of jobs, cleaning offices at night, in construction, selling at traffic lights, things like that. Here, in this house of decent people, you no longer fit. The silence that followed was terrible. I saw from my hiding place how Maria gripped the tray so hard her knuckles turned white. This woman who had cleaned my children's vomit when they were sick, who had worked extra days without pay when we had important events, who had been more loyal than my own blood. Besides, Helen added cruelly, lately this house smells weird, like strange food. It's probably from the food you cook for yourself. You know how you people cook. Tears started rolling down Maria's cheeks, but she didn't say anything. She just stood there, enduring the humiliation. Excuse me, she finally whispered, and left the room with what little dignity they had left her. I stayed there, hidden behind that door, trembling, but not from cold, from rage, from pain, from such deep disappointment that my chest physically hurt. My own children didn't just want to get rid of me like old trash. They were also going to destroy an innocent woman's life out of pure racism. And my wife, the woman who promised to love me in good times and bad, was the cruelest of all. That night I couldn't sleep. I stayed awake until 6 in the morning, walking around the whole house, looking at family photos that now seemed like mockery to me. Photos of Christmas, birthdays, vacations, all lies. I thought about my dad, who died when I was 30, a man who never had a penny, but who taught me that all people should be treated with respect. Son, he used to tell me, work doesn't dishonor anyone, and skin color doesn't make the person. The heart does. Where had I failed as a father? How was it possible that after giving them everything, my children had turned out like this? At dawn I made a decision. If my children thought I was a senile old man they could manipulate, I was going to show them what Edward Morrison was made of. At 7 in the morning I called Rodriguez, my personal lawyer for 25 years. A man who has known me since I had nothing. Rodriguez, I told him, I need to see you today, and I need you to do some very special work for me. What's wrong, Edward? You sound worried. I'll explain later. Can you come to the house at 10? Of course, I'll be there. When Rodriguez arrived, I took him to my study and locked the door. Rodriguez, I told him, I need you to investigate my entire family, every dollar they've spent, every contract they've signed, every bank movement, everything. Your family, Edward? What's happening? I told him everything, every word I had heard. Rodriguez knows me well and knew I wasn't making anything up. Give me 2 weeks, he said. If there's something fishy, I'm going to find it. Meanwhile, I started my own investigation. I reviewed every bank statement, every contract, every paper I found in my desk. And what I discovered broke my heart. Robert had been stealing money from the company for the last 5 years. He started with small amounts, 50,000 here, 100,000 there. But then he became more ambitious. In the last year, he had taken out almost $3 million. How did he do it? He created fake invoices from suppliers that didn't exist. He authorized special bonuses for phantom employees. He was very smart, my son. Too bad he used that intelligence to steal. Carmen was equally a thief, but more sophisticated. My charity foundation, which I had created to help poor children, had become her personal account. She used the money to pay for her husband's political campaigns, expensive dinners, trips, advertising, all paid for with money that was for children who had nothing to eat. Michael, my baby, turned out to be the worst of all. He had been selling information about our businesses to the competition for years. Contracts we were going to sign, land we were going to buy, companies we were going to sell. He leaked it all for money. And Helen, my dear Helen, had secret accounts in 3 different banks. For the last 10 years, she had been transferring money from our personal accounts to her private accounts. Almost $4 million she had hidden. For when Edward dies, according to what I found in one of her papers. Can you imagine the pain I felt? It wasn't just that they robbed me. It was that they had done it for years, looking me in the face, pretending they loved me, while stabbing me in the back. Give it a like if you think I had the right to be furious, and comment what you would have done in my place. But I hadn't finished discovering things. I found something that hurt me more than all the thefts combined. On Helen's phone, yes, I checked her phone. I didn't care about anything anymore. I found messages with her country club friends where they made fun of me. I'm sick of the old man, she said in one message. All day asking about expenses, wanting to know where every dollar is. I can't wait for him to die so I can live in peace. In another message, she said, Robert found the perfect nursing home. It's expensive, but it's worth it to get him off our backs. The monthly fee is $8,000, but he'll be drugged all the time. He won't bother us. Drugged? Were they going to drug me to keep me quiet? There were more equally cruel messages. They made fun of how my hands trembled from arthritis, how sometimes I fell asleep watching TV, how I asked the same things twice, because sometimes I didn't hear well. The old man is getting more useless every day. Helen wrote, yesterday he forgot where he put the car keys. It's time to institutionalize him before he does something stupid. I didn't have dementia. I just had 75 years and the normal aches of age. But they used every little thing to justify their betrayal. When Rodriguez brought me his report 2 weeks later, he confirmed everything I had discovered and more. Edward, he told me with a sad face, your family has stolen almost $12 million from you in total, and legally you have the right to sue them criminally. How serious are the crimes? Robert could go to prison for 8 to 12 years for embezzlement. Carmen, 5 to 8 years for misappropriation of charity funds. Michael, 6 to 10 years for selling privileged information. And Helen could get 3 to 5 years for theft. All my children in prison. My wife too. It was too much, even for what they had done to me. But I have a better idea, I told Rodriguez. We're going to teach them a lesson they'll never forget, but without completely destroying their lives. During the next week I prepared my plan. It wasn't just revenge, it was justice. And above all, it was a way to give Maria what she deserved after 20 years of loyal service. I talked to Maria one afternoon when she was alone in the kitchen. She had looked sad since the day of the humiliation. "Maria," I said, sitting at the kitchen table, "can I talk to you?" She looked surprised to see me there. In 20 years, I had never gone to the kitchen to chat with her. "Of course, Mr. Edward. Do you need something?" "I want you to tell me about your life, about your dreams, about what you'd like to do if you could." Her eyes filled with tears. "Why are you asking me that, Mr. Edward?" "Because I care about you. Because you've been more family to me than my own family." And then she told me about Diana, her 22-year-old daughter, who had to leave nursing school in her last semester because they didn't have money to pay for it. Diana worked as a cashier at a supermarket, earning $2,000 a month. She told me about Carlos, her 18-year-old son, who had been working construction since he was 16 to help with household expenses. A smart kid who wanted to study engineering, but knew he'd never be able to. She told me about her dream of opening a bakery. Since she was a child, she had learned to bake with her grandmother and always dreamed of having her own business. But after 20 years working as a housekeeper, she had never been able to save enough. "Do you know how much you'd need to open a bakery like you dream of?" I asked her. "Oh, Mr. Edward, that's impossible. It would be like $200,000 for the location, the oven, all the equipment. It's too much money. And for Diana to finish nursing school? Like $80,000 more. But that's already impossible. She's resigned to it." "Maria," I said, taking her working hands in mine, "I want to apologize to you." "Apologize for what, Mr. Edward?" "For not stopping the mistreatment you've suffered in this house before, for letting my family treat you badly. You've been more loyal, more honest, and more hard-working than any of them." She started crying. "Mr. Edward, you don't have to apologize to me. I'm grateful for the job." "No, Maria, you don't have to be grateful. We should be grateful to you. And I'm going to fix that." Friday night, my family organized what they thought was going to be my last dinner at home. They had reserved the nursing home for Monday. Helen had already packed my things in 2 small suitcases. They acted like the perfect family. Helen cooked barbecue, my favorite food. Robert told me jokes and asked about my business as if he cared. Carmen brought me flowers and said I looked great. Michael showed me photos of his latest vacation in Europe, paid for with my stolen money. All cheap theatre. "Family," I said, raising my wine glass. "I want to make a toast. To all these years together, to the memories we've built, and to the surprises life still has in store for us." We toasted, and for a moment I saw something in their eyes that could have been genuine affection, but it was too late. "By the way," I added casually, "tomorrow Rodriguez is coming early with some very important papers." "Papers, Dad?" asked Robert, feigning concern. "Aren't you too tired to sign documents?" "On the contrary, son. I've never been more awake in my life. I'm going to make some important changes to the will and the structure of all the companies." I saw them exchange nervous glances. If they only knew what awaited them. What kind of changes? Helen asked with a trembling voice. You'll see tomorrow. It's going to be a very revealing meeting. That night, none of them slept well. I heard them walking around the house, talking in whispers. They knew something was wrong, but couldn't imagine how wrong. Saturday morning, exactly at 9 o'clock, Rodriguez arrived with a box full of legal documents. Also came the company's main accountant, a representative from the bank where we had our main accounts, and to my family's total surprise, Maria. But not Maria the housekeeper in her uniform. Maria dressed in an elegant navy blue pantsuit that I had bought her. She wore her hair professionally styled and carried a leather folder in her hands. What is the maid doing here? Carmen asked with disdain. You're going to find out, I told them. I made them sit in the main living room. Helen, Robert, Carmen, and Michael on one side. Maria, Rodriguez, and the other professionals on the other side. I stood in the center. First of all, I announced with a strong, clear voice, I want everyone to know that yesterday I underwent complete medical examinations with 3 different specialist doctors, neurologist, psychiatrist, and geriatrician. All 3 certify in writing that I am in perfect use of my mental faculties. I took out the 3 medical certificates and showed them. I saw how their faces changed, especially Robert's. So any papers you may have signed about my supposed mental incapacity are completely false and fraudulent. Dad, we never, Michael started to say. Shut up, I yelled at him with a force I didn't know I had. For 75 years I've been a respectful and polite man. Today you're going to listen without interrupting. The silence was total. Rodriguez, please read the first document. With pleasure, Edward. This is a forensic audit report conducted on all Morrison Group companies during the last 3 weeks. The following irregularities were found. For the next 30 minutes, Rodriguez read every theft, every lie, every betrayal, everything documented with dates, exact amounts, account numbers, witnesses. Robert Morrison. Embezzlement of $2,847,000 over 5 years. Carmen Morrison. Diversion of charity funds for $987,000 over 3 years. Michael Morrison. Sale of privileged information for $1,623,000 over 4 years. Helen Morrison. Unauthorized transfers to personal accounts for $3,892,000 over 10 years. Total stolen $9,349,000. These are not simple accounting irregularities, Rodriguez continued. These are serious federal crimes. Each of you could face between 5 and 12 years in prison. The silence was deafening. Carmen had started crying. Michael was white as paper. Robert was visibly trembling. Do you know what I felt at that moment? Not satisfaction, pain. Deep pain seeing my children like that, but also a strange relief that the truth was finally coming out. But wait, I said, because here comes the part that really hurts me. I took out my phone and put it on speaker. Do you want to hear what you said about me last Tuesday, and what you've been saying for years? I pressed play. First, the conversation about putting me in the nursing home. Their own voices filled the room. Every cruel word about my supposed dementia, every plan to get rid of me, every racist insult toward Maria. When that recording ended, I played another. Helen's messages, making fun of me with her friends. I'm sick of the old man. I can't wait for him to die so I can live in peace. And then another recording. Robert talking to someone on the phone. The old man is almost useless now. As soon as he's locked up, we'll be able to run the company however we want. When all the recordings finished, nobody spoke. The only sound in the room was Carmen's sobs. "Do you know what hurts me the most?" I asked them. "Not that you stole almost $10 million from me. Not that you planned to drug me and lock me up. What hurts me most is how you treated Maria." I looked at Maria, who was following everything with a mixture of amazement and sadness. "This woman worked for us for 20 years. She took care of my children when they were babies. She worked extra days without pay. She never missed a day, and you treated her like garbage just because of the color of her skin." My voice became harder. "That showed me who you really are. Because a person's character isn't seen in how they treat their equals, but in how they treat those who can't defend themselves." "Rodriguez," I continued, "read the second document. This document establishes immediate changes in the Morrison Group structure. Robert, Carmen and Michael Morrison are removed from all executive positions effective immediately. Their shares in all companies are suspended indefinitely. Their salaries, bonuses and benefits are cancelled." "That's impossible," Robert yelled, finally losing his composure. "You can't do that. We're your children." "My children?" I asked, looking at him steadily. "The children who planned to drug me to lock me up. The children who robbed me for years. The children who mistreated a good woman because of racism. I can do that, and much more," I continued. "As founder and majority shareholder of 78% of all companies, I have the legal right to protect my businesses from criminal activities." I looked at Maria, who still couldn't believe what was happening. Maria Rodriguez becomes, as of this moment, a minority partner of Morrison Group, with 25% of the shares of all companies. The silence was total. In addition, she receives a trust fund of $5 million to establish her bakery chain and $2 million additional for her children's education. Helen was the first to react, and she did it like the cruel woman she had proven to be. "Are you completely crazy, Edward? You're going to give our company to the Black Maid?" "Helen!" I yelled at her with a fury that surprised me. "Never refer to Maria that way again." I approached her, this woman with whom I had shared 50 years of my life. "I'm going to give part of my company to a woman who has shown more honesty, loyalty and dignity than the four of you combined." "Helen," I continued, "do you remember what you said to Maria about her people and looking for appropriate jobs? Well, now Maria officially owns more of this company than any of you." Helen was speechless for the first time in decades. "Rodriguez, continue with the third document." The third document establishes changes in the family residence property. The mansion located in Beverly Hills now officially belongs to Edward Morrison and Maria Rodriguez as joint owners. Helen Morrison has 30 calendar days to find new residents and vacate the property. "You can't kick me out of my own house." Helen shrieked like a mad woman. "It's not your house, Helen. It never was. The property was always solely in my name. You only lived here because of my generosity." "But there's more," I continued. "Carmen, the Morrison Foundation for Children's Aid, will now be directed exclusively by Maria Rodriguez. Her first project will be establishing a university scholarship fund for young people from indigenous and African American communities." Carmen was crying like a little girl. "The first beneficiary of this program will be Diana Rodriguez, Maria's daughter, who will complete her nursing degree with all expenses paid, including specialization abroad, if she so desires." I saw how Maria put her hands to her face, moved to tears. "Michael," I continued, "all the international accounts you supposedly managed are being transferred to a new microcredit fund for low-income women entrepreneurs, also directed by Maria." "Dad, please," Michael begged with a broken voice. We can fix this. We're family. We can pay you back the money. Family? I asked him with infinite sadness. Michael, when you were planning to drug me to take me to the nursing home, did you think about us being family? When you robbed me month after month, year after year, did you remember I'm your father? When you humiliated Maria calling her insolent black woman, did you care that she's a good person who has dedicated 20 years of her life to taking care of you? I addressed all four of them my blood family that had turned out to be a family of traitors. You failed life's most important test, how to treat people you consider inferior. You revealed your true character when you mistreated Maria, and there's no going back from that. But I wasn't finished. Rodriguez, read the fourth document. The fourth document establishes the conditions under which criminal charges will not be filed against Robert, Carmen, Michael, and Helen Morrison. They all looked up, hopefully. First condition, you must sign a complete confession of all crimes committed. Second condition, you must return all stolen money through a payment plan that will be supervised by the court. Third condition, you are prohibited from approaching Maria Rodriguez or any member of her family for life. Fourth condition, I continued myself, you must perform 500 hours of community service each, working in organizations that help low-income people. Fifth condition, you are prohibited from participating in any business or company related to me for the next 10 years. And the sixth condition, my voice became colder, Helen must publicly apologize to Maria for all the years of racist mistreatment. Helen stood up like a spring. I will never apologize to that. To that what, Helen? I asked her. To that black woman. To that maid. Say it. Show once more who you really are. Helen stayed quiet, but her face of hatred said it all. Perfect, I said. Then you prefer to go to jail? Rodriguez, prepare the criminal lawsuits for Monday morning. No, Dad. Wait, Carmen screamed. We'll sign whatever. We don't want to go to jail. Really? I asked them. Are you willing to comply with all conditions? The four looked at each other. The desperation was obvious. Yes, Robert murmured. We'll sign. Perfect. Rodriguez, prepare the confession documents. While Rodriguez took out more papers, I sat next to Maria. Maria, I said, taking her hands, I know this is a lot to process. Do you agree with all this? She had tears in her eyes. Mr. Edward, I don't know what to say. It's too much. I don't deserve so much. You deserve this and much more, I answered. For 20 years you were more family to me than my own family. It's time you received what you always should have had. For the next 3 hours, they signed all the papers. Robert, Carmen, and Michael signed their confessions with tears in their eyes. Helen signed with a rage that showed in every letter. When it came time for the public apology, Helen stood in front of Maria. Maria, she said with a forced voice, I apologize for having treated you badly all these years. That's not a real apology, I interrupted. Helen, tell her exactly why you're apologizing. Use the right words. Helen closed her eyes. Humiliated. I apologize for having insulted you because of your skin color, for having treated you as if you were less than us, for having been racist with you for 20 years. Maria, with a class my wife never had, answered, I accept it, Mrs. Helen, and I hope someday you understand that all people deserve respect. What do you think? Was that apology enough? Give it a like if you think Helen deserved it, and comment what you would have done in my place. The following days were chaos. Robert, Carmen, and Michael packed their things and left the company. Helen packed 50 years of life and moved to a small apartment downtown. But the hardest part wasn't the legal changes. The hardest part was facing people's reactions. Some of my businessmen friends criticized me harshly. "Edward, how is it possible that you gave your company to the maid?" said Patrick Reynolds, my lifelong friend. "I didn't give my company to the maid," I answered. "I gave part of my company to an honorable woman who deserved it more than my own family." "But Edward, think about what people will say. A black woman as partner of Morrison Group. What will our clients think?" "Clients who have a problem with that can go to the competition," I said without hesitation. "I prefer doing business with people who respect others for what they're worth, not for their skin color." Patrick left angry and never spoke to me again. But I didn't care. He showed me he wasn't the friend I thought either. Other friends supported me completely. "Edward, you did the right thing," said Fernando Martinez, another businessman. "I knew Maria from the parties at your house. She always seemed like an exceptional woman to me. If your children betrayed you like that, they deserved the lesson." The whole story came out in the newspapers. "Millionaire strips his children and gives his fortune to housekeeper," the headline said. Some articles painted me as a crazy old man, others as a social justice hero. I didn't care what they said. I knew I had done the right thing. What did hurt me were my grandchildren's reactions. Robert and Carmen's children, who were between 8 and 15 years old. Paula, Carmen's 12-year-old daughter, called me crying. "Grandpa," she said between sobs, "why did you do that to my mom? Now we have to change houses and schools." My heart broke. Those children weren't to blame for what their parents had done. "Sweetheart," I told her, "your mum did very bad things. She stole money that was to help poor children, but you're not to blame for anything." "Don't you love me anymore, Grandpa?" "I love you with all my heart, Paula, and I'll always love you, but I can't allow your mum to keep doing bad things." That day I made another decision. I established an educational fund for my grandchildren. Even though their parents had lost everything, the children would have their education guaranteed through college. But with one condition: they would have to earn their scholarships with good grades and good behavior. I wasn't going to give them anything like I had done with their parents. Maria adapted to her new life with incredible grace. The first thing she did as a partner was meet with all the company employees. "I want you to know," she told them in that meeting, "that we're going to implement new policies of respect and equality. No one will be discriminated against for their origin, skin color, or economic position." She also created a training program so cleaning and maintenance employees could study technical or university careers if they wished. Her daughter Diana not only returned to university, but became the best student of her generation. When she graduated as a nurse, she established a free clinic in the neighborhood where she had grown up. Carlos, her son, was able to enter engineering school. He now works at one of our companies, but earned his position on his own merits, not for being Maria's son. Maria's bakeries became a total success. Not just because the bread was delicious, but because she hired single mothers from low-income backgrounds and taught them the trade. "Mr. Edward," she told me one day, "I want these bakeries to be more than businesses. I want them to be opportunities for women who, like me, have struggled alone." After 6 months, she already had 3 bakeries running. After 2 years, there were 8. All with the same model: hire women in need and give them training and growth opportunities. Meanwhile, my biological children faced the consequences of their actions. Robert lost everything. His wife left him and took the children to live with her parents. He had to sell his house, his cars, everything. He got a job as a manager at a small company, earning a fraction of what he earned with me. One day I ran into him at the supermarket. He looked aged, haggard. He approached me humbly. "Dad," he said, "I know I have no right to ask you for anything, but my children ask about you every day." "And what do you tell them?" I asked. "I tell them the truth, that their dad did very bad things and Grandpa punished us for it." "Have you learned anything, Robert?" He stayed quiet for a moment. "I learned that easy money is expensive, that trust is lost in a second and takes a lifetime to recover, and that respect can't be bought." "And about Maria?" "That she was a better person than any of us, that we treated her like garbage when she deserved our respect." For the first time in months, I saw something sincere in his eyes. "Robert," I told him, "when you really change, when you demonstrate with actions that you understood the lesson, then we can talk about a second chance." Carmen had to divorce her politician husband when the foundation scandal broke. Her social career ended. Nobody wanted to be seen with the woman who had stolen money from poor children. She got a job as a secretary at a law firm. Ironic, considering she used to think she was the queen of society. Michael went to live in Phoenix. He opened a small computer business, but it's going badly because nobody trusts him after the scandal. Helen had the worst time. At 68, she had to learn to live alone for the first time in her life. Cook, clean, do her shopping. Everything Maria had done for her for 20 years. At first I tried to feel sorry for her. She had been my wife for 50 years, but every time I remembered her cruelty with Maria, the compassion left me. A year after the divorce, Helen called me. "Edward," she said with a broken voice, "I've been thinking a lot about everything that happened. And I think I behaved very badly with Maria and with you." "Think." "Okay, I know it. I behaved horribly. It was pure racism what I did. And I'm sorry." "Helen, are you apologizing so I'll give you back the money, or because you really understood how wrong you acted?" She stayed quiet for a long time. "I don't know," she finally admitted. "I don't know what's real and what's not in my life anymore." That was the last time I spoke to Helen. Do you think I was too hard on her? Comment what you think. Did she deserve a second chance or not? 2 years after all this, Maria and I had developed a very beautiful routine. We had breakfast together every morning, going over the day's pending matters. She had become an exceptional businesswoman, with innovative ideas that would never have occurred to me. "Mr. Edward," she told me one morning, "I have a proposal. Tell me. I want us to open a trade school, to teach young people from low-income backgrounds, carpentry, plumbing, electrical work, baking, well-paid trades that give them a dignified life." "I love the idea. Where would you put it?" "On the vacant lot we have in East LA. We could build workshops, classrooms, even dormitories for out-of-state students." "How much would you need?" "About $8 million for everything." "Do it," I said without hesitation. "It's a perfect investment." 6 months later, we inaugurated the Maria Rodriguez Trade School. In the first year, we had 200 students. In the second, 400. Young people who previously had no opportunities now had well-paid trades and a dignified future. At the inauguration, Maria gave a speech that made me cry. 3 years ago, she said, in front of hundreds of people, I was a housekeeper who thought my destiny was to serve others my whole life. Mr. Edward taught me that all people have the same value, the same opportunities to grow. This school, she continued, is for all the young people who, like me, believe they don't deserve more than what they have. Here they're going to learn that dignified work doesn't dishonor anyone, and that honest effort always bears fruit. People gave her a standing ovation. Me too, with tears in my eyes. That night, Having dinner alone in the house we now shared as partners and friends, Maria told me something I'll never forget. "Mr. Edward, can I tell you something?" "Of course." "You saved my life, but not just because of the money or opportunities. You saved me because you gave me back the dignity I thought I had lost." "Maria." "No, let me finish. For 20 years I thought my place in the world was to serve others, that because I was black, because I was poor, because I was a single woman, I didn't deserve respect. Your children reminded me of that every day." Her voice broke. "But you taught me that respect doesn't depend on skin color or how much money you have. It depends on how you live, how you treat others, how honest you are." "Maria," I said, taking her hands, "you didn't have to learn that. You always had it. The ones who had to learn were the others. Do you know what's the most beautiful thing about all this?" "What?" "That my grandson is going to grow up seeing his grandmother as a successful businesswoman, not as a housekeeper. He's going to grow up knowing that people are worth what they are, not where they come from." That conversation marked me deeply. I realized that my lesson hadn't been just for my children. It had also been for Maria, to show her her own worth. 3 years after my decision, Robert asked me for an appointment. He looked different, more humble, more genuine. He had gained some weight, had some new grey hairs, but above all, he had something in his eyes I hadn't seen in years. Sincerity. "Dad," he said, "I come to ask your forgiveness, but not so you'll give me anything back. Just because I need you to know I understood everything. Tell me. These 3 years have been the hardest of my life. I lost my house, my marriage almost ended. My children asked me why we no longer lived like before." He paused. "But they've also been the most important. I had to work as a regular employee, earn a regular salary, live like most people live. And I learned to value things, not to waste food, to respect all my co-workers, regardless of their position, to understand that money is earned through effort, not stolen." And about Maria, I went to look for her a month ago. I apologized to her personally, and I asked if I could do something to repair the damage I caused her. That did surprise me. "What did she tell you?" "She told me she had already forgiven me long ago, but that if I really wanted to repair something, I should work as a volunteer at her trade school. And I've been going every Saturday for a month. I teach basic accounting to the students. Maria says I'm a good teacher." For the first time in 3 years, I felt some pride for my son. "Robert," I told him, "what you did is good, but you need to understand something. An apology is just the first step. Real change is demonstrated with consistent actions for years." "I understand, Dad. I'm not coming to ask you to give me anything back. I just wanted you to know that your lesson worked, that I understood that respect is earned, not inherited." "And your siblings?" "Carmen is starting to understand too. Michael is still very resentful. He says you were unfair. Everyone learns at their own pace." I told him. 6 months later, Carmen also came to see me. Her story was similar. She had learned to value honest work, to respect people regardless of their social position. "Dad," she told me, "I started working as a volunteer at a shelter for abused women. Maria recommended me when I asked her for forgiveness. How do you feel doing that?" At first, I was embarrassed. Me, who used to organize charity parties where we spent in one night what these women need in a year. But then I understood that real charity isn't organizing social events. It's getting your hands dirty, really helping. Carmen was also changing. Slowly, but changing. Michael never came. According to his siblings, he still blamed me for everything that had happened. He said I had been too harsh, that they didn't deserve that punishment. Some children learn, others don't. 4 years after my decision, we celebrated the 4th anniversary of the partnership between Maria and me. We had tripled the value of the companies. The trade school already had 5 locations in different cities. The bakeries were a chain of 15 locations that employed more than 200 women. But the most important thing wasn't the numbers. It was seeing how so many people's lives had changed. Diana, Maria's daughter, had specialized in pediatrics and now directed a free children's hospital we had built. Carlos worked as an engineer in our companies, but had earned every promotion on his own merit. Hundreds of young people had graduated from the trade school with dignified, well-paid jobs. Thousands of women had received microcredits for their small businesses. That night, having dinner in our house, because it was already our house, both of ours, Maria told me something that touched my soul. "Mr. Edward, do you remember what Mrs. Helen told me that day about looking for jobs appropriate for my people?" "Of course I remember." "Well, look what's appropriate for my peoples," she said, smiling. "Running companies, creating jobs, educating young people, building hospitals, changing lives." "Maria," I told her, "you're not your people, you're my people, my real family." Her eyes filled with tears. "And you're the best family I've had in my life." That night I couldn't sleep, but not from worry, but from happiness. I thought about the whole journey since that terrible Tuesday when I discovered the betrayals. I thought about my dad, who taught me that all people deserve respect. I had finally honored his teachings. I thought about my children. Robert and Carmen were learning, slowly but learning. Michael was still lost, but maybe someday he would understand too. I thought about Helen, who had lost everything because of her racism and cruelty. Sometimes I felt sorry for her, but then I remembered how she treated Maria and the compassion left me. But above all, I thought about Maria, how she had gone from being a humiliated housekeeper to being a respected businesswoman, how she had transformed her pain into opportunities for others. The next day, while we were having breakfast, I made her a proposal. "Maria, I'm 79 years old. I'm tired. Would you like to be the main president of all the companies?" She choked on her coffee. "What are you saying, Mr. Edward?" "What you heard. I'm retiring. You take charge of everything. You've proven you're a better businesswoman than me." "But Mr. Edward, I didn't study business administration. I don't have a college degree." "Maria," I told her, smiling, "you have something better than a degree. You have honesty, social vision, and a heart that always seeks to help others. That's not taught in any university." "Are you sure?" "Completely." And that's how Maria Rodriguez, the housekeeper my children wanted to fire because of racism, became the president of Morrison Group. The news came out in all the newspapers. "Former housekeeper heads business empire," the headline said. Some racist businessmen got upset. They cancelled contracts, refused to do business with us. "Perfect," Maria said in an interview. "We don't want to do business with people who discriminate by skin color. We prefer working with companies that value people for their character." And she was right. We lost some racist clients, but gained many more who admired our philosophy of respect and equality. 5 years after all this, I'm sitting in my study writing this story for you. Maria is at the office directing a meeting with international investors. Her grandson is in the garden playing with his friends. This house, which used to be cold like a museum, is now full of life, laughter, real love. Sometimes my grandchildren visit me. Paula, Carmen's daughter, is now 17 and wants to study social work. "Grandpa," she told me last week, I want to be like Maria when I grow up. Help people who need it most. Why? Because I understood what you did. You didn't punish our parents out of cruelty. You punished them to teach them that all people are worth the same. That girl did understand the lesson. Robert comes to visit me once a month. He continues working as a volunteer at the trade school. His marriage was saved, and now he lives modestly but in peace. Carmen also comes often. She now runs a foundation for abused women. She says Maria taught her what real charity is. Michael has never come, but recently I learned he's in psychological therapy, trying to understand why he feels so much resentment. Maybe someday he'll learn too. Helen died last year, pancreatic cancer. At the end, before dying, she sent me a letter. Edward, it said, I'm leaving this world knowing I behaved horribly to you and Maria. The racism I showed was unforgivable. If I could turn back time, I would do everything differently. Give my apologies to Maria. She was a better person than me. The letter made me cry, not from sadness, but from relief. Helen had understood at the end. Do you know what's the most beautiful thing about this whole story? It's not just about me teaching my family a lesson. It's about how respect and dignity can transform entire lives. Maria didn't just change her life. She changed her children's lives, hundreds of employees' lives, thousands of students at the trade school, all the women who received microcredits. Her example inspired my grandchildren to be better people, inspired Robert and Carmen to really change, inspired dozens of businessmen to treat their employees better. One single decision to do the right thing created waves of change that keep extending. Recently, Maria told me something that sums it all up. Mr. Edward, do you know what's the difference between your blood family and your real family? What? Your blood family loved you for your money. Your real family loves you despite your money. She's right. Maria loves me for who I am, not for what I have. She respects me for my values, not for my bank account. That's real family. The one you choose, not the one you get. Now, at 80 years old, I can say my life has meaning, not because of the companies I built or the money I made, but because of the lives I changed and the values I defended. My legacy isn't the properties or bank accounts. My legacy is Maria running companies that help people. It's Diana saving poor children's lives. It's Carlos building dignified homes for humble families. It's the hundreds of young people who graduated from the trade school with a better future. If I died tomorrow, I would know it was worth having lived. The lesson I taught my family was simple. Respect isn't inherited, it's earned. Dignity isn't bought, it's practiced. And real love doesn't depend on blood, but on actions. Maria taught me that real family is the one that supports you in good times and bad, the one that respects you regardless of your age or ailments, the one that loves you for who you are, not for what you have. To you who are listening to me, I say, look around you. How do you treat people you consider inferior? The waiter, the cleaning lady, the security guard. That's where your true character is revealed. Money can buy you many things, but it can't buy you genuine respect, true love, or a clear conscience. And remember, it's never too late to do the right thing. I was 75 when I made the decision that changed everything. Age is no excuse for not defending justice. Maria tells me I'm an example that you can change the world one person at a time. I tell her she's the example that dignity can't be broken, no matter how much they attack it. Together we proved that love, respect, and justice can overcome racism, cruelty, and betrayal. That's my story. The story of an old man who discovered that family isn't just blood. It's love, respect, loyalty, and shared values. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to this old man. Give it a like if the story moved you. Share it if you think someone else needs to hear this message. And tell me in the comments, do you know similar cases? What would you have done in my place? Do you think I was too harsh, or did I do the right thing? I always read them, and your comments give me great joy. God bless you all, and remember, treat all people with respect, regardless of their background. You never know when that person could become your real family. Thank you for listening to me.